Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Welcome. Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's Tuesday. If it's the second or fourth Tuesday of the month, then it's my show, and you've reached me live. It is Balanced Life with me, your host. I'm Debbie Carlin Boyle, and this is Conversations that Connect to a Healthier You. I always kind of say, hopefully connect to a healthier you, but they do connect you if you follow what we're talking about, because we only talk about stuff that will benefit you. And the stuff that hinders you, we may talk about too, but we hope that you get rid of that part of it. So I welcome you this afternoon. I also welcome you to become part of the show. Have a great conversation today, something near and dear to my heart. It's about longevity with quality, which I've always talked about. It's one of my mantras, and we've got an expert in that field to join us today. So stick around because you're going to get a lot of good tips, points. He's written a book. It's amazing. So one of the ways you can join us is to call in. And to do that, the number here is 323-524-2599. Again, 323-524-2599. So you can ask us a question, make a comment, get involved in the conversation. That's why I call it Conversations Connecting to a Healthier You. I want you to connect into the conversation with us and not just my guest and I bantering back and forth. But if you're watching after the fact and you still want to become part of the conversation, you can do that. So you can go to my Facebook page, which is Balanced Life by Debbie, D-E-B-I, or my YouTube channel, Balanced Life by Debbie, where we're streaming live on both places. And right under the live stream, after the fact, you can ask a question, make a comment, and get involved in the conversation that way. And I keep the conversations going post-show. So if you have anything you want to say after the show, don't hesitate to say it, because we will get a hold of my guest, and I'll make sure that he responds. If you want to not call in but make that comment during the show in the comment section, I check during the show my Facebook page. So go to my Facebook page and make that comment, and we'll try to respond while the show is going on. So there you have it, all ways to become part of the conversation. And before we get going with today's show, in case you're new to my show, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a personal trainer, a fitness instructor, and a health and nutrition coach. So I help people find balance in all the things that we need to be in alignment to live a life of longevity with quality. There's so many things that must come together for us to live this long, healthy, vibrant life, not one where we're sedentary, miserable, in pain, can't move. So things that are not in alignment, I help you get there. And there are so many ways that we do it. I work individually with people. I do group sessions, workshops, talks, you name it. Any way that I can sort of give you the tools you need to live your best life, I'm really happy to do that. And you can get a hold of me by going to my website, which is Balanced Life by Debbie, DEBI.com. And there, when you first go there, you're going to see a pop-up. It's going to say a 3-day detox. It's yours free. It's a giveaway. It is recipes for 3 days of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Nice, wonderful, really satiating, delicious food that you can cook at home. There's a market list attached to it. And I'm telling you, after the 3 days, you feel lighter on your feet, lighter in your head, and ready to go on and like take on whatever, your day, your week, your month, or even your year has to throw at you, because it gives you a jump start. And this isn't the kind of detox where you're just drinking juices and water. That's not this. This is good, healthy food that is of quality, and it tells you all about it if you go to my website. And it's also a place for you to get a hold of me. I do free 1-hour health history sessions where you tell me a little bit about yourself, and then I come back in and we talk about your goals, and even in an hour we can get you on the road to health and longevity. So I implore you to go there and just get a hold of me, because I would love to have that conversation with you. All right, let's get on with our show today, because we do have a good one. This one is also about longevity. So, aging young has been my mantra since I started my health and wellness business. And in fact, Age Young is the title of my book, because who doesn't want, once again, longevity with quality? Well, that includes my guest today, Greg Damian. Greg is a best-selling author, health coach, motivational speaker, and fitness disruptor. His mission is to assist men over 50 overcome perceived limits of their age by helping them to look and feel younger. He achieves this through his 4-step DOLR system, which teaches men to dream big, own your health, live well, and recharge often. So let's get into it. Let's learn about Greg's journey and the steps that you need to take to look and feel younger at any age. Will you please welcome my guest, Greg Damian, to the show? And there's our audience. Hi, Greg.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. Happy to have you. Wait, where are you located today?
I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay, that's what I thought. But I wanted to double check and make sure that's where you were today. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, thank you for joining us. I hope you are having a beautiful fall day like we are here in Southern California, because it is.
It doesn't feel like fall here yet, but I think it's coming.
Is it still like summer there?
Oh, it was 100 yesterday, so it's still hot.
Eek, not summer. We did have a heat wave last week. We were in the late 90s last week, but that kind of went away over the weekend, and I'm relieved. Yay.
It is cooling off here, so that's good.
That's good. That's good. So I'm really impressed with this book that you wrote. And I really want to talk abs at 60. It's been all over my social media in the last 2 days, your book cover. And I want to learn all about your road to getting to that book. And so much so that I want you to start from the very beginning. I want to know where you were born, what your childhood was like, and where you went to school and how you worked your way up to getting to where you are today. So start from the beginning for us.
Start from the beginning. Well, I like to say that actually as an 8-year-old, I was kidnapped by my parents, and they moved me from Buffalo, New York to Huntsville, Alabama. And I never really fit in. I never really appreciated Southern culture. And while I had a group of friends there in Huntsville, and Huntsville's a little bit different because the space program is there and so on, it was still very Southern. And as such, I was pretty motivated to get out of Alabama as quickly as I could. I will also share that I was raised in a household that had a heavy drinking father who largely outsourced, I use that word, parenting to my mom. And as such, I didn't really have a good, strong male role model in my life. And I didn't have a lot of confidence either. So, I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand. In high school, I didn't date. And even in my 20s, I really didn't date very much because I just didn't have the self-confidence in myself to do that. What I did have, however, was a belief. I had a belief that said, one day is going to be different. One day I'm going to have everything, kind of going my way. But it took a while, right, to get there. I studied.
Were you an athlete when you were younger?
I wasn't. So I mean, I'm not a big guy, and the primary sports, baseball, football, and basketball, really weren't accessible to me. I was competitive. I mean, I played like little league and that sort of stuff, and then I played some tennis, but nothing very seriously until I got out of the university. And I was living in Florida at the time, and a friend of mine from work encouraged me to go run with him, and he was a marathon runner. And also at the same time, the alcoholism that tended to run in my family was beginning to hit me, and I was beginning that phase of my life. I was beginning to drink a lot more, and I didn't like it. But I wasn't quite sure what to do until one day I was driving home from work after a happy hour, having had probably too many alcoholic beverages. And I look over, and I'm weaving in and out of traffic and just asking myself, this is stupid. What am I doing? And I look over and I see a state trooper staring at me, and he was glaring at me. I mean, this wasn't like, just a casual, he had me if he wanted me, but for a reason he didn't pull me over. But it was at that point I decided to really turn away from alcohol and really focus on athletics. In hindsight, it really was cross addiction. I have to admit, right? I didn't solve my emotional problems through health and fitness, and I had to learn decades later, right? However, the benefits that I saw from the exercise were pretty profound. I got stress relief. It did make me feel good because I was actually a pretty good runner, and so I could show up to these races and do good and made friends and that sort of thing.
Not to mention the endorphin high that you get when you run. So that feel good feeling kind of puts you on a high, and that high allows you to gain. I think because that was a big start for me when I got athletics into my life. It gives you confidence. It gives you, I don't want to say courage, but it does give you the strength and the confidence to become more social, to be able to put yourself out there, because there's not only the mental benefits, but there are physical benefits. So you're looking in the mirror, feeling good about what you're seeing, and you're also literally, highlighting those good feeling hormones that create joy and happiness and confidence. So, it's a real good mixture of things that can come front and center, I think.
Earlier on in my 20s, I didn't get into the science. I was trained as an engineer, and actually quit my job to go back to medical school in my 40s, which didn't work out. I didn't end up in medical school for a few reasons, but I did pick up a number of really useful skills from a biological and physiological perspectives, and that really helps me understand much more about what our bodies are doing. I just felt it. I just felt good, right? I just felt better
of course.
in that time. And I didn't drink much, but for me, it was pretty much cold turkey, right? I just stopped because I saw what had done to my father, and I didn't want to go there. And it actually sort of estranged me from my father. He, a few years later, sends me sort of an angry email, or back in the day, it was not an email, but a handwritten letter saying, you're a terrible son, and I don't want anything to do with you, because I hadn't followed his footsteps of drinking, honestly, right? So that was
that's his issue. Yeah, that's really sad. I'm sorry that happened. But that is, what I find when people don't feel like they have buddies, they know what they're doing is not good for them. It's probably not good for the people around them. And when people go to better themselves and they haven't taken that step, it is a letdown for them. And so rather than look inward and see what they're not doing to make a change, when someone makes a change for a positive, they blame them and make them out to the bad guy. I've seen that within close families and close relationships. And it's so backwards. It's not even funny, but it's hurtful. So I really am sorry that did he ever come around later in life?
Well, Thank you for asking. I really, in fact, I do a talk. I just gave this talk recently. It's a 30-minute talk, and obviously not going to go through the whole thing in that detail. But I call it the miracle because my father passed away in 2019, and I had been living in Denver. My family, he'd been sick before, and my family had been taking care of him, and I felt guilty in 2019 that I hadn't been a part of what was going on. So the universe conspires. This is just one of my beliefs, right? That the universe conspires for us, and I was able through a sequence of events to actually spend a fair bit of time in Alabama that year, and I'll share this part of the story though. Is in November, so he died in December, but in November I was in an Al-Anon meeting, so a support group for friends and families of alcoholics, and someone said they'd been able to forgive their loved one, and I asked myself, could I forgive my dad? And my immediate answer was no. I don't think that I could, for having really neglected me, the way he had. And the next person said that that a miracle had happened, that they had been able to forgive their loved one. And I said, okay, I'm open to the possibility, right, that a miracle could happen, and I could forgive my dad. The short part of the story here is that my dad had gotten really sick. He was in hospice. I was there with him. And that day, the last day that he was alive, actually, I was there with him, and I asked him a simple question of, we've got another person coming in to do some caretaking for you. Are you interested in seeing this person? And what he said was 4 words that really changed my perspective. He said, "Will you be there?" And that might not sound like a big deal, but it was the first time that I actually felt like he even cared that I was there.
Wow.
And I found him dead right where I'd left him the next morning. He had passed away that evening. And there's just so much irony that the universe had conspired to allow me to have that experience with him. And it didn't change him, but I will say it changed me.
And that's right? Important, because you're the living, you're moving forward. And, he did some really mean, probably not hatefully, intentionally,
right,
but you're not in your right mind when you're an alcoholic. I grew up in an alcoholic home, so that's how and I got blamed for lots of things that my mom didn't want to look at herself, to blame herself. So what do? They go to the next person who's closest to them, or who they think that they can stomp on and start battering them instead of where they should really be looking, like I said earlier. So, you're the living now, and he gave you a little gift before he passed. And I'm glad to hear that, because you've got, a lot more vibrant years you have left that you don't want to dwell. You don't want to go back to those. Yeah,
and carrying around that negative energy doesn't help anybody, and certainly doesn't help me. There's a funny part to that. The universe conspiring. I mentioned that friend of mine from work who encouraged me to go run with him. He was actually a recovering alcoholic. He passed away recently, and his wife, his widow, reached out to me and said, "Hey, I just wanted you to know that Dave had been 5 days away from being sober for 50 years. So he saw something in me."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
he took you under his wing, literally, and made you run. And so made you fly with him.
Yeah.
Which I like. So what happened? What did that generate for you? That started you did you get on an immediate path once you stopped drinking and started running to a healthier lifestyle, or was it a road?
Yes. Yeah, it really was a pretty rapid transformation. One of his friends was a cyclist, and this is down in West Palm Beach, Florida. And so I started running and cycling. And shortly thereafter, I'm like, because I knew a bunch of swimmers from high school. So I'm like, well, why not do triathlon? So I did my first triathlon in 1988. So the sport was actually still pretty young. Yeah, exactly. And I remember that race because I was the last person out of the water in that particular race, which is kind of not a great feeling when your bike is the only one that's left.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
Well,
And
but the good news is that I passed a lot of people, right? I didn't see all those people pass me in the water per se, right? But I did pass a lot of people on the bike and the run.
yeah, so
So
you
that
have
was
your
very
strong
reinforcing.
parts, which is
Yeah.
uplifting. Yeah.
Right. So that led me down this path of being involved in triathlon off and on. Although I was really more of a runner, I did did a couple of marathons, but I really liked the half marathon distance. And in 2004, sort of the highlight of my running career, I won a small, well, there's 300 people in it, race in Denver in Cherry Creek State Park. It was a half marathon race, and so that was an outright win, which was pretty exciting. Um, but I also share with you, well, I injured myself because I want to share that I was 2 seconds away from winning a 10K race just 2 weeks ago, and
Oh,
that's really pretty remarkable because I didn't think I was actually going to be able to run again after a injury that I sustained in 2012. And so to be able to be that competitive at age, now I'm 61, it was really like, wow, I didn't think this was going to be possible.
and it
Right.
was. How
And it
incredible.
was.
That's
Right.
that. Yay. Bravo.
You mentioned my methodology, and the D that is for dream big. And that's what I encourage everyone to do, as well as to understand their why. And honestly, in my life, I've had some good thoughts and some good dreams, but I haven't dreamed big enough, is the message that I would say, right? I think there's still plenty more out there to do and accomplish and to experience. And I have very much embraced an abundance mentality that, hey, there's an abundance of fun and love and experiences and good people that we can be a part of and influence, and that's what I'm really excited about now.
Oh, I bet. That's really cool. And I think number one, it's never too late, right?
Right.
Number two, even when you think you're there, you just keep dreaming, you just
Sure.
keep moving up. That
It's
I've
another
always,
plateau
yeah.
or another option comes available to you.
So, I mean, for people who are watching us, are either on my YouTube channel or my Facebook page, they've seen some incredible pictures of your body
Thank
and
you
what
for
great
sharing.
shape that you're in. What led you to become more of a weightlifter, bodybuilder, and then ultimately writing this book, Abs at 60, which is a motivational book, no doubt. So what was that process for you?
Well, the weightlifting came quite by chance. So I mentioned earlier that I had interest in going back to medical school. And again, the universe was conspiring for me in this way. My neighbor happened to be the chairperson of the American College of Sports Medicine Bone Health, and they were studying athletes, triathletes, and cyclists in particular. And she knew that I was both. And they asked me if I wanted to have my bone scanned, and this was about 15 years ago. And I said, sure, why not? That sounds interesting. I'm happy to learn and contribute to their study. And lo and behold, I was almost osteoporotic in my mid 40s,
Mm.
meaning my bone health was bad. Um, and so they, so the tech said, you probably want to talk to your doctor about this. And so the doctor did some blood work on me and said, his exact words, we've found the smoking gun. I was really low on testosterone. So I've been on testosterone replacement therapy ever since. That's one part of the equation.
Hmm.
But I also started weightlifting because weightlifters and gymnasts have the best bone health. And I also started taking on the bone supplements like calcium and magnesium and a few other things. And within a year, this is what was really shocking to me. I had no idea. This is really good news. Within a year, my bone density had returned to normal. So bone is living tissue.
It's amazing, isn't it? I had thought,
right.
I'll never forget when my general practitioner, and this was when I was in my 40s, said to me, because I had a little bit of osteopenia, and I've been lifting weight my whole adult life since my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And she said to me, once you lose bone, it never comes back. So you don't want to get, you don't want to keep going down there.
Right.
And I heard a doctor, professional, say that to me. She was old school, she was older, and I believed it. And then I get into this field, I start studying it more intensely, and I realized that's not true.
No,
you can actually build bone back.
Osteocasts and osteoblasts, and
yes,
it's dynamic tissue.
It
takes a while. It's not as vascularized as muscle, for example, right?
Muscle is an organ. Muscle's an organ, so it's different. Muscle responds, but without the muscle, you can't build the bone back.
That's
but
right.
you need the strength training to get the bone back. That's why it's so important.
Regularly to maintain my bone health, and actually a friend of mine encouraged me to do a bodybuilding competition. He's like, "Yeah, you've got a good physique. Why not go on stage?" So I did. I actually, in my early 50s, so about 10 years ago, I was the Colorado State Bantamweight champion 2 years back.
Oh, you won.
I did.
Fabulous.
Well, I won the weight class, right?
Yeah.
I won that weight class. I was by far the smallest guy on stage. Okay. And there's this picture of me of all of the class winners, and, from super heavyweight down to bantamweight. But there I was, right on stage with the most muscular men in Colorado. So that was pretty cool, I have to admit.
That's lovely. That's so cool. So I want to get into everything that happened after that and this book, and I want to talk about your book and how it's laid out. And I talked about in the intro that you specifically work with men, but maybe you work with, if a woman comes to you and needs some help, you work with them. I know you're a personal trainer. But we're going to take a quick break from a sponsor, and we're going to come back and get into the whole book for the last half. So we'll be right back after this message. Cicera Olio de Oliva is an extra virgin olive oil company with a mission to provide high-quality, current-season Italian oils to families. They have partnered with 2 centuries-old family farms in the Tuscany region of Italy to grow, harvest, and bottle their amazing oils. Founded by a nutritionist who has a love of the land, sustainability, nutritious foods, and of course, Italy, they strive for a peak freshness and high nutritional content in every single bottle. All of their oils are current season, extra virgin olive oil, bringing you a true branch to bottle experience, and I know firsthand. So, for an offer, go to www.cesiroliva.com and enter Balanced Life 10 for 10% off. I know you're going to love this healthy and delicious addition to just about any meal. All right, we're back, and we're with my guest. He's a fitness expert. He is an author. He's a motivational speaker. He wrote a book, Abs at 60. We're going to talk about that book, and we'd love to have you become part of our conversation. So if you could take this number and call in, it's area code 323-524-2599. Join our conversation. Ask us a question. Make a comment. Tell us what worked for you or didn't work for you. Tell us what your goals are. Maybe we can help you through that. So welcome back, Greg. And I want to hear what led up to the book. And I want to talk about this DOLR method that you have, 4 steps of. So, and what they each are, if you could elaborate.
Sure. Well, let's do that. What led up to the book was I had scheduled photos. I'd had photos taken a few times prior to this, but when I turned 60, I had a photographer lined up here in Scottsdale, and we went to a couple different venues to take a bunch of professional pictures. And you shared the one with me on pool deck, right, which ended up on the cover of my book. Because when I saw that particular picture out of the, the hundreds that you take in a situation like that, I said, okay, this is a picture that I think really, that I'm really proud of, and that I would like to use to inspire people. And as you say, I mean, men as a target market, I don't care. Anyone can get inspired is good by me. To be able to use my story and my experience to influence people to live healthier and to live their best lives, right? So when I saw that picture, that was the really the trigger that said, I want to share my story. I want to use that picture to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so when we kind of touched on it, but when you were younger,
Mm-hmm.
did you have a good diet? Did you grow up in a house? I mean, once you moved to the South, did the diet go south, or what was that like? Because it's so vital to have a body like yours. Diet plays a huge part in that. So I'm just wondering what your beginnings were like and how you changed it if you had to.
I've got an answer that's maybe a little different than what you're expecting, but it involves a picture of me in my 20s. I got married in my 30s, basically to kind of the first girlfriend that I had. And I after 17 years, I knew that I needed to grow, and this had all to do with me. There's nothing wrong with her. And so I got a divorce, and she was quite happy to get divorced from me because I hadn't been a good partner. And that was part of my growth process. Mainly because I was just in my head, right? And when I was in my head, I was selfish. I didn't really know how to be a good partner, and I didn't have children by choice. But here's the point. When I was moving out, I found a picture of me. So I'm in my early 50s at this point, of me in my 20s, a couple of pictures, right, as I'm moving, getting my stuff packed up. And I saw a good looking guy. I mean, this whole thing of I was inadequate or whatever was really just in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like one of those moments where you go, when you realize that, not days, not weeks, months, but decades have been wasted by not really being able to believe in yourself. Right. So,
Mm-hmm.
Diet for me, to go back to your question, yes, diet is key. And I went through a lot of evolution with diet. And I also share that my father died of diabetes and complications from diabetes, and diabetes runs strongly in my family.
Type 2. You're talking type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Although 1.5, they call this late onset diabetes, is actually another kind of diabetes. And I would really like to know if that's what my father had, because I produce really small amounts of insulin. I'm not insulin. I mean, I'm pre-diabetic myself. And it's because I don't produce enough insulin.
Yeah. And there is a genetic component to that for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you just have to be more vigilant about your blood sugar levels and keeping track of that.
And I've worn a continuous glucose monitor. So I've become pretty geeky with all of this stuff, right? I like to know what's going on. Smart. And I think anyone and everyone will benefit by wearing a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, for a couple of weeks. It's just fascinating.
Right? Yeah, to see when you whether you eat a nut or you eat a raisin, and to see where your the nut could spike your blood sugar level and not the raisin. I mean, it is fascinating.
And everyone is so different.
Yeah.
My big surprise was beef jerky, right? I figure, beef jerky can't possibly, spike my blood sugar. And sure enough, boom. And I look at the package and it's like, okay, it's loaded with sugar. No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. The label reading is a big deal, but wearing a monitor makes you just start reading labels. I think it helps my clients to read labels.
Yeah, getting the feedback that way is really powerful. Getting even a A1C every 6 months is not, it's good feedback, but it's not as good a feedback as, 5 minutes after I ate that bag
Yeah.
of chips,
Yeah.
I'm at 160 milligrams per deciliter or whatever the
Yeah.
units are.
Yeah. And it's funny because there are ways to have your blood sugar go down. I mean, after a meal, just go for a walk,
Fuck.
10-minute walk, or move, do some running in place or jumping jacks or walk around the house 10 times, whatever. Just get some movement in and it'll go right to the couch and start, vegetating, which many people are, because after a meal you get tired and it's the end of your day, you want to relax, put on Netflix, whatever, but you want to get your blood sugar levels balanced before you get into bed. Otherwise, your body's doing a lot of extra work while you're sleeping. And that's when your body is in the garage doing the work. You don't want to give it any other, make it work any harder than it has to. So diet growing up, was it a thing in your house? I mean, were you eating healthily or were you eating junk food? Because I'm older than you, and I grew up in...
You don't look like it.
Oh, I am almost 66, so getting there.
Congratulations. Good job.
Thank you. Well, we lead by example, right?
Yeah,
and I figure if I'm going to talk the talk, I better walk the talk and I better live the life. So otherwise I don't have a job. I can't, or not this job.
Yeah.
I
it's
can't
not a
sell
legitimate
it.
job, is it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And so I learned really quickly when I got into college. My father died at 46. He had Hodgkin's disease, but he got sick very early. He was overweight. He didn't eat well because we didn't grow up with healthy food in our family. He smoked, he drank. And he lived that 46 years was a full party life. But I saw the correlation between how you take care of yourself and how your life is going to lay out. And he lost it way too early. And there were 4 kids, it was a whole thing. Yeah. But it also was a wake-up call for me. So when I got into college, where all my friends were, over partying and eating off of the cafeteria food, which was all yellow, by the way. It was all either prefab, packaged, or fried. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm not going to do that. And I don't want to feel like crap anymore. So I started eating off of salad bars at pizza joints that were attached to the school. And salad bars were kind of a new thing because I was in school in the 70s. I was in college in the 70s. So it was the start of the road to my health and wellness adventure, which was a side hustle throughout my entire adult life when I had a totally different career in the film industry. And so what happened in my childhood drastically changed by the time I was 18. And so I'm just wondering if that was the situation for you.
I went through a kind of a slow and long evolution, but when I think back about my childhood and think about what I consumed, the one thing that really stands out to me is how much soda, caffeinated soda, was
sugar
that I consumed. Yes,
it's liquid sugar.
Not only the sugar, the caffeine, because I have found that I'm super sensitive to caffeine, and I basically just try to avoid caffeine. And so I just, I'm just thinking how much sugar and caffeine I was consuming without really having any kind of understanding of what was going on. It was just what you did.
It shoots your adrenals. I mean, that's
I can't do it.
Yeah.
The first diet book that I picked up after I started running was the Pritikin Diet for Runners. And I remember that and they're still around, and they advocate an 80% carbohydrate, 10% fat, 10% protein diet. And so that was kind of the first approach that I had. Now, having diabetes in my family, that really wasn't a good idea, right? So, eventually I became more and more paleo. So I had the opportunity when I was doing my sort of pre-med work in my 40s to hear Dr. Lauren Cordain talk about the paleo diet. He's from Colorado State University. And I really appreciated that. So from an evolutionary perspective, made sense to me that we should be eating the kinds of foods that our ancestors ate, right?
Yep.
That's
Big time.
what our biology is really designed to do. So it was really then that I transitioned to much more of of what I would call a clean, unprocessed sort of diet. And I was also diagnosed with a bit of a gluten intolerance, and so I did eventually remove most of the gluten from my diet as well. My grandmother was actually celiac, so we had even some of that in my family as well. Fortunately, that isn't a concern for me. So my attitude, because some people will come out and say, I'm sure you hear this, oh, it's so hard and I don't know what to do. And I take the opposite approach. I say, no, it's easy. Everywhere I go, there's something good to eat. I just need to find it.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I was going to say. You can weed it out. And I really help my clients do this because first off, is it processed? If it's processed, don't go there. And second, what's the nutrition value that you're going to be getting with it? If you have to get a sauce on the side because you don't know the derivative of that sauce is bad seed oil or something, and you don't know, rather than ask a million questions, just don't eat it, And, cherry pick your food off a menu. And sometimes my, clients say, oh, I don't want to make a big deal with the other people. And it's like, but this is you and your body and what you put in. And food is medicine. Food is information. You are what you eat. So you have the right, and you're paying for it. So you have the right.
That's a really good point, right? You're the boss. You're the consumer.
Exactly.
And, one of my least favorite types of food actually is Chinese. But I'll go into a Chinese restaurant and not order off the menu. And I say, I want steamed vegetables, chicken. And if you have some brown rice, that's what I want. And, 9 times out of 10, they're happy to do that.
Absolutely.
And if they're not, then I'm kind of probably walk out.
I have kids. Most of my friends eat the way I do because, one of the things that I talk to my clients about is if you're hanging out with people that are eating fried food and eating horrible and drinking a lot, chances are you're going to join that's what you do. We're crowd pleasers. So, try to find healthier ways, get into a gym, meet people in your classes, meet people that you can socialize with in the locker room. I have a whole section in my book about women in locker rooms, and the kind of camaraderie that there is and the kind of things that we talk about in the health and wellness realm. And one of the things that when you're with people that eat and think like you do about staying healthy, longevity with quality, you're more likely to, when you go out, everybody's sort of on the same page. But when I'm with my kids and some of their friends or in party situations, I try to do that cherry picking thing in, like you said, in the easiest way. Do you mind? Can I just get salmon, no sauce, and a side of steamed vegetables? And then I can kind of pick and choose if they have olive oil or a balsamic vinegar of some kind. I can make my own sauce, and so I do it very quick, very easy, and lo and behold, my kids are starting to order like this too because they grew up with me. And it's doable. It is doable, and you shouldn't be embarrassed about it. And if a restaurant says they can't do it or they won't do it, then perhaps you should go somewhere else. That's how I feel about it. And there's exceptions, I've got the 80-20 rule, 80% of the time, you really do eat good and you pay attention. And the 20%, 10%, 20%, whatever percentage is kind of like, screw it. I'm going to go to this party. I'm going to have this celebration. I'm going to enjoy myself. You may pay a price because once you clean up your body, you know how that is. But get right back on track and go to your 80% again.
Let's talk about DOLR for then.
Yeah, because I'm sure that comes up in this. I want to hear about your book and how it's laid out.
Sure.
Because we're running out of our time here.
We are. Well, so the first couple of chapters are what's in it for the reader, right? Because and so the subtitle is the 4 steps to look and feel younger at any age, right?
Love it.
This is accessible to anybody. And then I compacted and synthesized what I thought were the key things that had led me to have abs at 60 into this book. And this really came down to these 4 steps: dream big, own your health, live well, and recharge often. And in Dream Big, we talked about this a little bit earlier. It's not only decide what you want from a health perspective, but what do you want in life, right? I mean, and our bodies are the vehicle for us to achieve that. I think I'm in, maybe I don't want to speak for you, but for me, I may be a rare exception, right? That using my body as perhaps a way to inspire people is not what most people are going to do, right?
No, not your average person, for sure.
Not your average person. I can walk around all day and nobody knows that I have 6-pack abs unless I take
show them.
You want to
see? Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Oh, there they are.
So, but I also speak about, so what is your goal? And I give some examples. So one of my examples is I want to climb Kilimanjaro at 80. And
why not now? Why do you say 80?
Because I want to be able to do that at 80, right?
Yeah.
I want to have that capability at 80. And, maybe I'll go do it this year or next year as well. Okay. But I really want that ability.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've always said since a very young age, and this was before I was married, that I wanted to chase after my great grandchildren, which would mean at this point it would put me in my 90s. So, and that's my goal. I can do that now because I have grandchildren, so I can do that. But I'm talking about my great-grandchildren.
Yeah,
I want to do what I do now then. So what I do today matters. So I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So you're backcasting. You're projecting what you are going to be doing and how you're going to do it, and then backcast to what are the things that I need to be able to do. If I want to travel, I need to be able to put 40 pounds of weight over my head, right, into, an overhead compartment and be able to go up and down the stairs and navigate. Kilimanjaro is cold at night, right? When you get at elevation. So your body's got to be able to do these sorts of things. Own your health. So the second step is, taking sort of the Jocko Willink extreme ownership approach is, look, the hard, cold truth is no one on this planet cares as much about your health as you do. Mm-hmm. You have to own it. It's not your doctor. It's not your spouse. It's not your insurance company or your employer. None of those people care as much as you should care about your own health. That's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is there are people like you and me and doctors and physical therapists that are ready and willing to help us. Okay. I do suggest not letting insurance the tail wag the dog. You need to know what you want and go after it and be judicious, right, in how you allocate your money. And if you can afford a concierge doctor, someone that can really, dedicate some time to you, that's obviously a great choice.
Functional medicine. Yeah.
Functional medicine. Yeah. I've been a naturopathic doctor as well.
Well, either or. Yeah.
So, that's the dichotomy is those folks are there, but they don't know what you want. You have to be clear about what you want and then enroll them to help you. And if they're not helping you, you got to find someone who will.
Yeah. And I do have one caveat about that. And like you said, if you can afford, that's part of the situation is, the average person, they are not recognized by insurance, and they should be. And that is a bandwagon that I'm on right now to get that ball rolling because I take issue with that.
Well, anyway. I support you on that.
Yeah.
The good news is that in the next section, Live Well, which is really the diet, exercise, stress management, relationship side of it, you don't need a doctor, right? The doctor's not really going to help you. There's plenty of resources that can help people do those things. And while diet is an important component to it, I've come to believe and understand that it's really exercise that's the most powerful drug that we have. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't, there are some costs to exercise, but they're really small compared to what people are spending other money on. And I know we're getting close, so I'll just move on to...
But you know that you can't make 6-pack abs in the gym. They can't.
That's true. So I do have a chapter in the book that
they come from the kitchen and then you go to the gym.
Yeah,
right.
I have that statement in the book.
Okay, good.
That's true because it's really about body composition and body fat.
Yes.
Right. We all have abs. We all have beautiful abs. Many of us have them hidden under a layer of fat, so we don't ever get to see them and appreciate them.
Right. So the kitchen is important, where you make your abs and then you work on them in the gym. Anyway, go ahead.
So recharge, often the last section, is things that I use to help rejuvenate me. And there's really 3 that I call out. And sleep, I've really come to appreciate the power of sleep. And I wear a ring to monitor my sleep and do things to improve my sleep. Prayer, meditation, I've developed that practice along the way, and even having a spiritual practice has been important for me. And there is some research that suggests that doesn't matter what what your belief is, that having that spiritual practice is actually going to add years to your life.
The blue zones, that's the whole craze
community.
Right now.
And
yes.
There's a lot of community. There's one other chapter that sometimes gets people's eyes raised in the book, and I talk about aesthetics. And I use Botox. I've had a couple of minor, sort of procedures, and I was called out on this. And I said, look, aesthetics for many people can be the lowest hanging fruit to starting to feel better about yourself. And if you can do that and it propels you to make other positive changes in your life, why wouldn't you do that?
I agree. And I think that is an individual, personal issue for yourself about changing. I've changed one thing my whole adult life. Would I like to change others? Yes, but that's not where I'm going to put my focus or my finances right now, because I'm living a lifestyle that allows me to look my very best based on my genetics and based on my lifestyle, the combination of the two. But I say, if there's something, because the mental agony that I've seen people go through on something that's bothering them that they can't change from an aesthetic standpoint, a physical standpoint, it's worth it. It's worth it. If your eyes are so that, it's bothering you because you feel like you're squinting because you can't see and you can afford to fix them, do it. If you don't want a turkey neck and you can fix that, and it's going to change how you look at everything else moving forward. I know that's an issue for me. Do it, and so Absolutely. I think it's an individual thing. I think it's like anything else, whether you wear makeup or not wear makeup, if you're a female, that's your decision. That's an aesthetic too. Whether you get a tattoo or not, that's your decision. Nobody else's. It's personal to you, and it is a health component to it, because there is a mental thing that can drag you down if you're fixating on something that's bothering you. That's what I think.
Being happy is ultimately what this is all about.
Joy.
And if we're not happy and present with what's going on in this world around us, none of this stuff matters. And I'll also share that, counseling, emotional health is another really important aspect of this. And it took me a while to understand my own emotional health issues, and so I take care of myself that way as well.
Fabulous. We're going to be seeing you at the top of Kilimanjaro at 80. I know it. So really quickly, tell people how they can get a hold of your book and get a hold of you. And then we'll have you leave us with some final words. So
my website is absat60.com. So absat60.com. And there's a free downloadable PDF that includes a copy of all of the questions from the book. So if you don't want to spend the $10 on the book, you can go ahead out there and download the PDF, and you'll get the gist of what's going on. And you can fill out the questionnaire. And if you feel like reaching out to me, there's a place on that website as well where you can do that too.
Fabulous. All right. I really appreciate your time and your expertise and your book and all the information to help people live that life of longevity with quality, age young. Leave us with some final words, final thought, or just a word. Up to you.
we've said this a few times in this call, and I think it is worth repeating. It's never too late.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let decades, well, even if decades have gone by, it doesn't matter. You can still make a positive change in your life, both physically as well as emotionally.
Couldn't have said it better. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I thank you again, Greg, for your time and expertise. And I want to thank you, my audience, for joining us today. I hope you got some good information. If you're on my YouTube channel, go ahead and just like the episode if you would, and make a comment. Tell us what you thought about it today, or even ask a question. If you're on my my Instagram, you have the opportunity to do that as well. And I want to let you know that there's only 3 more shows left, 1 more in October and 2 in November, until I'm taking a break until after the first of the year. But I have so much content on my YouTube channel. Just go there. Any question that you have in the health and wellness realm, I've done a show on it. So just look up a title that may resonate with you. And again, I want you to go out and take the time to find those conversations that connect to a healthier you. All right, everybody, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye. Thank you, Greg.